You've only done half the job. The woman named Han, she must know everything. I froze. My whole body went cold. Bah Han, that was me. They were talking about me. What did Lin mean by, know everything? I turned to Fong, but he remained silent. He said there were still a few blurry video clips left on the phone, apparently filmed secretly inside the house where I once lived with Dung. The video started, the frame dim, the lighting weak. Dung sat on a chair, lighting a cigarette. In front of him was a thin woman with long hair, her face hidden in the shadows. Her voice was hoarse. Are you afraid of me? Dung growled, you're dead. You're just a shadow of the past. She laughed, a chilling, hollow sound. Then why do you still obey me? She tilted her head, and the light revealed half her face. My heart stopped. It was the same woman who had come to see me days ago, the one who called herself Lin. Fong paused the video and looked at me. Can you confirm that this is the woman who visited you? I nodded, my throat tightening. He continued, according to the timestamp, this footage was recorded about a week before you met her. That means, at that time, Dung and she were still in contact. I sank into the chair, my hands trembling. Everything had been planned. Lin seeking me out, the anonymous photos, the strange messages, all part of a calculated chain of events. What do they want from me? I whispered. Fong replied slowly, we believe they wanted to use you to lure Dung out. There might have been a falling out between them, and you became the bait. I went silent. A woman in her 50s, thinking she had already survived life's storms, was now pulled into the schemes of people who were once lovers and accomplices. My tears burned hot, but my heart remained cold. Fong spoke softly. I know this is too much to bear, but you should be grateful you're still alive. Maybe Dung tried to protect you from her, but things spiraled out of control. My voice trembled. You mean, Lin is still alive? He nodded. We believe so. Dung's phone once pinged near an address in the outskirts, an abandoned house in the forest. That afternoon, we went there. The house was damp and crumbling, its walls covered in moss, the roof half collapsed, the door locked from outside. Fong broke the lock and stepped in. The air reeked of mold and half-burned paper. On the table lay a pile of charred documents, and on the floor, a fallen photograph. I recognized myself in it, caught off guard while hanging clothes, smiling innocently, painfully unaware. Fong picked up a scrap of paper nearby, read it, then handed it to me. The handwriting was shaky, slanted. Han, you're not the only one who's been hurt. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. If I die, find the man named T. He's the one behind it all. LTL. I shuddered. Who is this T? Fong answered, we're investigating. He might have worked with Dung and Lin in a money laundering ring. If that's true, this is no longer personal, it's organized crime. I sat on the rotting chair, watching the faint light seep through the shattered window. My life, a woman who only ever wished for a little peace, was now caught in a labyrinth of lies and guilt. That night, I didn't go home. Fong arranged for me to stay in a safe house. Before leaving, he said, be prepared. Lin might contact you again. I gave a bitter smile. After all this, I just hope she never shows up again. But life never grants the peace we crave. Near midnight, my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number appeared, only 7 words long. You know now, and soon, you will die. I froze. My hands turned to ice. Fong immediately ordered a trace, but the number disappeared just seconds after the message was sent. He looked at me, his voice tense. She may have realized we've found her hideout. You must not leave this place under any circumstance. I nodded, though my heart was pounding wildly. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. Even the faintest sound made me sit bolt upright. In the darkness, Lin's face from the video reappeared in my mind, those eyes, filled with both hatred and sorrow. Perhaps, before becoming a bringer of fear, she too had been a victim. I felt pity and terror. Because those who have been hurt beyond repair often have no boundaries left. The next morning, Fong brought new data extracted from Dung's phone, a 3-minute audio file labeled, The Last Time. Dung's trembling voice filled the room. If anyone hears this, please believe me, I didn't kill Lin. I only helped her escape. Her death was fake. She planned it herself to flee from the man named T, but now, she's come back, and she's not Lin anymore. She wants to erase everything, me, and Han. I felt my whole body go numb. If Dung's words were true, then the woman I met, the one claiming to be Lin, was no longer the person she once was. She had been consumed by darkness, leaving nothing but hatred behind. I whispered, Fong, if she really has returned, I don't want to keep hiding. I want to face her. He looked at me in shock. You understand the risk, right? I nodded. I do, but I've been running all my life. It's time to end it. Fong stayed silent for a long while, then said, all right. We'll arrange it, but you must remain under surveillance. Don't move without our signal. I smiled faintly. Don't worry, I'm done running. I turned toward the window. Morning sunlight filtered through the trees, reflecting off my face, old, weary, yet with a faint glimmer in the eyes. The light of someone who no longer fears. That afternoon, I returned to the old house. The roof tiles were green with moss, and sunlight slanted through the broken window frame, casting a dim, eerie glow. Since that night in the safe house, my fear had slowly transformed into something else, curiosity and a piercing ache. I wanted to understand what had turned Lin, once a fragile woman, into a haunting shadow of vengeance. I needed to see her, to end it all. Fong didn't want me to go alone, but I pleaded, trust me. She won't show up if she senses police nearby. Just monitor from a distance. He hesitated for a moment, then agreed, you have 30 minutes. If there's no signal, we're coming in. I smiled softly. That's all I need. The old door creaked as I pushed it open. The air reeked of mold, smoke, and rotting wood. Memories flooded back. Dinners, words, familiar glances, all now reduced to ashes of a time long gone. The promises of the past now echoed like hollow whispers through the cold, empty house. I walked slowly through each room, my fingers brushing over the tables, chairs, and wooden cabinets. Everything remained still, as if time itself had stopped moving. On the dining table, an old phone suddenly lit up, displaying a message. If you truly want to know the truth, open the video on this phone. I hesitated for a few seconds, then pressed play. The screen trembled slightly, revealing Lin's thin, pale face. Her eyes were sunken, her hoarse voice echoing as though from a great distance. Sister Han, if you're watching this, it means I didn't have the courage to meet you. I never wanted to hurt you. But you must understand, everything began with one man, the one called T. She paused, her gaze dimming. 3 years ago, Dung and I worked for him, a powerful man who laundered money through fake real estate projects. I was the name on the papers, and Dung carried out the transactions. When I tried to walk away, he threatened to kill me. Dung was terrified, so he helped me fake my death to escape. But I didn't expect him to use that fake death to erase every trace, and then hunt both of us down. Dung went into hiding. I changed my identity and my face, but he never stopped. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling. He wants to kill anyone who knows the secret, even you, because part of Dung's assets were transferred under your name. I left a copy of the evidence in this house. If you find it, give it to someone you truly trust. The video ended. I sat there, motionless, tears streaming down my face. So Dung wasn't completely guilty. Lin wasn't only a vengeful ghost. And I, the one who was unintentionally dragged between them, turned out to be the key to everything. Wiping my tears, I began searching the house. Under an old cabinet, I found a small wooden box, locked tight. I pried it open. Inside was a packet of documents, carefully wrapped in plastic. Just as I touched it, the door behind me creaked open. A gust of wind swept in, scattering loose papers across the floor. I turned. A figure stood silently at the doorway, tall, cloaked, hood pulled low. A voice, familiar enough to send chills down my spine, spoke. You shouldn't have come here, Han. I stepped back. Lin pulled down her hood, her face emerging in the dim light. No longer the fragile woman I once knew. Her face was gaunt, her eyes cold yet deep, and a faint, sorrowful smile crossed her lips. I've seen the video, I said, trembling. You don't have to hide anymore. They can help you. She let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Help? Do you really think the police can touch him? He's already bought people inside the force. If these files go public, both you and I are dead. I gripped the documents tightly. Then what do you want from me? Lin's eyes softened, red at the corners. I just need you to testify. You're the one they'll believe. I can't appear, but you can. Tears welled in my eyes. All right, I'll do it. But you must hand over everything you have. It's the only way to end this. She smiled faintly. I've already delivered most of it. But he knows. He's coming tonight to take the rest. He's coming here? Are you insane? We need to run. Run? I've been running for too long, Han. I want this to end. She took my hand gently. If I don't make it, give these files to Lieutenant Fong. He's the only one I trust. The sound of an engine roared outside, headlights flashing through the window and streaking across the walls. Lin squeezed my hand and whispered, "He's here. Hide, quickly. No, we'll leave together. Please, don't let my effort be for nothing." She pushed me into a small side room. I hid behind the door, heart pounding violently. Heavy footsteps echoed, followed by a deep, cold male voice. "Lin, come out. I know you're here." Peering through the crack, I saw him, a tall man in his 60s, wearing a black suit, sharp-eyed and expressionless. Lin stood in the middle of the room, calm and unflinching. "I didn't expect you to come yourself," she said. He smirked. "You've caused me too much trouble, Lin. You think you're clever? Have you forgotten who made you what you are? You didn't make me. You bought me," she replied, her voice trembling with fury. He stepped closer. "What do you want? Money? Or your life?" "I want justice." The gunshot cracked like thunder. I screamed and rushed out. Lin collapsed, blood spreading across the old tiled floor. The man turned toward me, startled. "Who are you?" Without thinking, I threw the packet of documents at him. At that moment, police sirens blared outside. The door burst open. Fong and his team stormed in. The man raised his gun, but within seconds he was overpowered. I fell to my knees beside Lin. Her eyes fluttered open, her voice faint. "Han, I did it, don't let him get away." I gripped her hand tightly as tears mixed with the cold rain beginning to fall, washing away, at last, the final traces of darkness. "I'll be fine." Lin smiled faintly, blood still glistening at the corner of her lips. I gripped her hand tightly, my voice trembling. "Hold on, Lin. You'll be okay." She shook her head weakly, her eyes searching for Lieutenant Fong, who was kneeling beside her. "In the hard drive, there's the original file," she whispered, each word broken, and then her hand fell limp and cold. Fong checked her pulse and bowed his head in silence. I held Lin in my arms, feeling something inside me collapse. Deng had died out of remorse. Lin died for redemption, and I, caught in between, was left with nothing but emptiness. The next morning, the news reported the arrest of Mr. T, the mastermind behind an international money laundering network. Lin's files, along with the recovered hard drive, became the key evidence in court. I read every line as tears streamed down my face. Perhaps the price of truth is sometimes far too high. That afternoon, Lieutenant Fong came to visit. He placed an envelope before me. Inside was a handwritten note, the lines shaky and faint. "Thank you for believing in me. If there's another life, I just want to be an ordinary person." Beneath it was her signature, La T. Lin. I folded the paper gently and whispered, "You already were a good person, Lin, it's just that life never gave you the chance to live like one." Late autumn sunlight filtered through the window, falling softly over the tea table. The breeze carried the faint scent of wildflowers. I lifted my head and took a deep breath. For the first time in years, my heart felt still. Life is full of deceit, yet there are still those who dare to die for what is right. And I knew then, my journey wasn't over. I would live on for Lin, to tell this story as a reminder to all who have once lost themselves in the shadows of faith. After the case closed, my life slowly returned to normal, a kind of normality so lonely and quiet it frightened me. They returned my old house, but I rarely stepped inside. Every crack in the wall, every chair, every doorway seemed to hold a memory I could no longer face. The neighbors looked at me with a mix of pity and curiosity. They called me the woman who survived. I only smiled, though my heart felt heavy. Of all those tangled in that story, I was the only one still breathing. Fong still visited sometimes, bringing reports and statements, papers that could close a case, but never close the haunting within. "Thanks to Lin's files, we managed to uncover the entire network," he said. "Mr. T and his men will pay for what they've done. You can rest easy now." I smiled faintly. "Thank you, but peace isn't that simple." He understood and said nothing more, only poured me a cup of tea. We sat in silence, watching the sunlight drift across the garden. Now, I no longer feel hatred, nor blame anyone. Only pity, for those who lost their souls to power and fear. Yet one thing still haunts me, the small wooden box Lin left behind. When everything was over, the police returned the evidence. "You can keep it," Fong said. "We've checked, nothing dangerous inside. Maybe Lin meant it for you." That evening, I placed the box on the altar. The flickering candlelight danced across the faded carvings. I whispered a prayer. Perhaps it's time to open it, even if it means facing the pain of the past. Inside were a few papers, an old photograph, and a thick envelope. The photo had yellowed with time. Lynn in her 30s, standing beside a kind-looking man. Both smiling brightly before the blue sea of Nha Trang. On the back, a line of writing. The days when we still believed the world had kindness. I touched the words and felt my throat tighten. Inside the envelope was Lynn's familiar handwriting, trembling yet deliberate. Asterisk. Sister Han, if you are reading this, it means I'm no longer here. I don't know whether to thank you or to apologize. But please believe, not everyone who falls into sin does so out of greed. Some only walk into darkness because they've lost all hope, still longing for a glimpse of light. I was one of them. 3 years ago, I had an 8-year-old son. His father, the man in the photo, was killed by tea to silence him. I had to fake my death to protect our child. He is staying at Lean Sun Pagoda in Dalat, under my surname. If you can, please find the head monk. He knows everything. All I wish is that, if one day I'm gone, my son will know that his mother once loved him, and fought for what was right. Please tell him. His mother Lynn has found peace, asterisk. I closed the letter, tears streaming down my face. Lynn was not merely a victim, she was a brave mother. Everything she did, the hiding, the disguises, the return to seek justice, was for her son. The next morning, I told Lieutenant Fong. He was silent for a long moment, then nodded. I'll go with you. We'll need to verify. I smiled softly. Perhaps this is the last thing I can do for Lynn, and for myself. The bus to Dalat wound through mist-covered mountain passes. The scent of pine and damp earth filled the air. Wind slipped through the windows, light and cold, clearing the weight in my chest. Fong sat beside me, silent, his gaze fixed outside, each of us lost in our own thoughts. When the bus finally stopped on the small road leading to Lean Sun Pagoda, I knew, another journey had just begun. It was dusk when we arrived. The pagoda lay quietly on the hillside, its moss-covered roof glimmering faintly under the evening mist. The sound of a distant bell echoed through the fog. The stillness was so deep that only the whisper of wind through the pine trees could be heard. An old monk appeared, his steps calm, his eyes gentle. I bowed, my voice trembling slightly. Venerable sir, my name is Han. I've come for someone named Lati Lin, she once left a child here in your care. The monk studied me for a long moment, then sighed softly. Amitabha, I knew Lin. The child is still here, his Dharma name is Tam. He's a kind boy, but he has never asked about his mother. Perhaps, deep down, he already understands. My throat tightened. May I see him, please? The monk nodded and led me along a narrow path to the back courtyard. Beneath the shade of an old frangipani tree, several children were playing. A boy, around 11, sat quietly by the veranda, carefully folding paper cranes. When he heard our footsteps, he looked up. Those eyes, clear, deep, and luminous, made my heart ache. Just like Lynn's, I knelt beside him, my trembling hand gently resting on his shoulder. You're Tam, aren't you? He nodded politely. Yes, ma'am, that's me. I smiled, tears blurring my vision. Do you remember your mother? He lowered his head. The master said she's gone far away, but that she still watches over me. Every night I dream of her. She's wearing white, standing under this very frangipani tree. I broke down in tears. Behind me, Fong stood in silence, his eyes red. From my bag, I took Lin's final letter and handed it to the abbot. Please, keep this safe. When the boy is old enough, let him read it. The monk nodded, his voice calm and solemn. Lin suffered greatly, yet her heart remained pure. She has surely found peace now. That night, I asked to stay at the temple. Mist blanketed the hills. The moon glowed faintly behind the pine branches. I sat alone beneath the old frangipani, white petals drifting around me like whispers of smoke. In that stillness, I could almost see Lin, her slender figure, her gentle smile, her soft eyes. I whispered, my voice trembling, Lin, rest easy. I'll take care of Tam, so he can grow up in peace, untouched by the darkness you faced. The next morning, as I was about to leave, little Tam ran up and held my hand. Auntie Han, will you tell me about my mother someday? I hugged him tightly and murmured, one day, I will tell you everything. But for now, just remember, your mother was brave and kind. The bus rolled away from the temple gates. The mountain road curved through veils of mist. Through the window, I looked back and saw the monk and the boy standing by the veranda, small, fragile shapes wrapped in peace. In that moment, I knew Lin had truly found rest. On the way home, Fawn asked quietly, "Mrs. Han, have you ever wondered, if you hadn't met Dung and Lin, would your life have been different?" I gazed out the window, where rays of morning sunlight pierced through the clouds, and said softly, "Perhaps it would have. But then I might never have understood the true meaning of peace. Sometimes, to see the light, one must walk through all the darkness." The bus went on, sunlight glinting on the road like threads of gold. I lifted my head, feeling as light as a falling frangipani petal. The story of Lin, of Dung, and of myself had come to an end in silence. Yet somewhere, I believed Lin was smiling, watching her son grow up in the light. And I, the one who survived, would keep that light for her, telling this story as a reminder that, no matter how long the night may last, as long as faith and kindness remain, we will always find our way back to the light.